Here, your experience makes the difference. With access to railroads, major waterways, and 8 different highways, this is a place in motion, sending goods, services, and ideas not just across the state, but across the world. And when the work ends, the day's just beginning, with beaches like West Beach in the Indiana Dunes National Park, exciting hiking and biking trails like the Diana of the Dunes Dare or the BMX track, and local treasures and exciting festivals, you'll know you're in more than just a bedroom community. From veterans of foreign wars to hometown heroes, our diversity is our strength, and we forge our future with the same flame as our steel. Oh, there's a place in the Midwest, and it's calling you home. The best part of Portage is what's next. The best part of Portage is you. There's more for you in Indiana. There's a place in the Midwest, 50 miles southeast of Chicago, nestled near the coast of Lake Michigan. It's a place driven by what's coming next, a place where industry is the lifeblood of its community, and its pulse is gritted with sand and steel, fire and smoke. It's a city building its future together, one business, one family, and one home at a time. This is a place for makers, doers, and dreamers. It's where the global marketplace meets hometown values, where Americana isn't just a tradition, it's a way of life. Here, your experience makes the difference. With access to railroads, major waterways, and 8 different highways, this is a place in motion, sending goods, services, and ideas not just across the state, but across the world. And when the work ends, the day's just beginning, with beaches like West Beach in the Indiana Dunes National Park, exciting hiking and biking trails like the Diana of the Dunes Dare or the BMX track, and local treasures and exciting festivals, you'll know you're in more than just a bedroom community. From veterans of foreign wars to hometown heroes, our diversity is our strength, and we forge our future with the same flame as our steel. Oh, there's a place in the Midwest, and it's calling you home. The best part of Portage is what's next. The best part of Portage is you. There's more for you in Indiana. There's a place in the Midwest, 50 miles southeast of Chicago, nestled near the coast of Lake Michigan. It's a place driven by what's coming next, a place where industry is the lifeblood of its community, and its pulse is gritted with sand and steel, fire and smoke. It's a city building its future together, one business, one family, and one home at a time. This is a place for makers, doers, and dreamers. It's where the global marketplace meets hometown values, where Americana isn't just a tradition, it's a way of life. Here, your experience makes the difference. With access to railroads, major waterways, and 8 different highways, this is a place in motion, sending goods, services, and ideas not just across the state, but across the world. And when the work ends, the day's just beginning, with beaches like West Beach in the Indiana Dunes National Park, exciting hiking and biking trails like the Diana of the Dunes Dare or the BMX track, and local treasures and exciting festivals, you'll know you're in more than just a bedroom community. From veterans of foreign wars to hometown heroes, our diversity is our strength, and we forge our future with the same flame as our steel. Oh, there's a place in the Midwest, and it's calling you home. The best part of Portage is what's next. The best part of Portage is you. There's more for you in Indiana. There's a place in the Midwest, 50 miles southeast of Chicago, nestled near the coast of Lake Michigan. It's a place driven by what's coming next, a place where industry is the lifeblood of its community, and its pulse is gritted with sand and steel, fire and smoke. It's a city building its future together, one business, one family, and one home at a time. This is a place for makers, doers, and dreamers. It's where the global marketplace meets hometown values, where Americana isn't just a tradition, it's a way of life. here, your experience makes the difference. With access to railroads, major waterways, and 8 different highways, this is a place in motion.
Good morning. Welcome to the Board of Works meeting. Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Could you please do the roll call?
Mayor Bonta,
Here.
Member Newell,
Here.
Member Lewis,
Here.
Member Farkas, Member Miletta.
Here.
Did you guys have a chance to look at the minutes, and is there a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve the minutes from October the 22nd.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Unfinished business. We have the Portage Recovery Association agreement. Ed, did you have some comments you wanted to make on the proposed agreement?
Yes, I did. I wanted to thank Michelle for putting it into the Dropbox. Secondly, this is a document titled First Amendment to Restricted Opioid Funds Agreement that was previously executed by the prior administration, September 12 of 2023. There are certain restrictions in terms of the use of these opioid funds coming from this national settlement. And of course, Jacob Monhout of Portage Recovery Association has made a request to use those funds. Specifically in paragraph 3 of the First Amendment, he listed a number of items from drywall repair all the way to outside painting. As I prepared this amendment, my goal was to make sure that the Board of Works only approved the allocated amount that was approved in fiscal year 2024 by the prior administration, that Jacob also furnished vouchers to show proper reimbursements for those expenses, that these expenses were to be solely used for the newly donated site or facility at 6040 Lute Road in Portage. So those are the elements I wanted to highlight.
The agreement doesn't specify the number where they max out, but that's specified in the budget. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. And on that point, I think the Common Council will have to reallocate for the upcoming fiscal year. The Board of Works, of course, will be left with the decision as to how these funds get paid out in fiscal year 25, understanding that this year there were multiple sources, namely the Fire Department and Portage Recovery Association.
And most of these items are one-time.
Thanks for raising that. From my understanding, now, again, I haven't seen any vouchers or receipts, but I did add the term non-recurring expenses with the understanding that these would be single expenses incurred in the fiscal year of 24.
With the landscaping one being on the list, could you give me an example of like a non-recurring landscape? So that would mean that they couldn't just, so they paid for like a lawn service for the, backyard grass that they have. Would that be an example of something that we couldn't do under this?
I think
Maybe I shouldn't say couldn't do, but don't intend to do.
Or a reoccurring mowing of lawn.
That's what I was wondering. Would
And
that
those
be-
type of things.
Yeah.
Lawn mowing's on there.
Yeah. So the way, again, I tried to resolve it was to say a non-recurring expense for lawn mowing or landscaping on a single already incurred basis, but not going forward. And again, it has to be consistent with the budget. Now, if the agreement requires any type of further amendment, just advise me, and I'll make that amendment through a motion today.
I just wonder with the landscaping, either, I don't want to say just take it off if there's an easier way to do it. I just feel like that could lead to a debate about what's a recurring and a non-recurring expense. if they're buying a lawnmower, I'm like, well, that might be a one-time expense. But if you're like booking like a landscaping service, that would be like a monthly expense, which I'm not against them doing on a level. I just don't know if it matches the wording of ours. I just don't know if there's a simpler fix than taking it off, Jamie, did I just make sense with what I said, or, yeah?
Yeah, I don't have any problem with taking out the landscaping and maybe address the lawn mowing a different way. Thought they were like one time to get us in. It's a new place, right?
That was kind of my understanding of it too, is that they've got, work that they're doing to renovate to be ready for when they open next year,
So to the extent that this agreement or amendment is before you, if you wanted to make a motion approving it subject to amending the first amendment, striking or adding language such as a one-time expense for lawn mowing, landscape service, I can add that additional language to it. And Portage does have the benefit of an agreement that says you can make these amendments in your discretion. It does not require Portage Recovery Association's approval.
Well, I'll approve the First Amendment to the Restricted Opioid Funds Agreement, contingent upon removing the general landscaping and lawn mowing, and maybe put one-time landscaping.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And thank you, Ed. I know, right? That's the... So that gets us into new business, the port security grant.
I'd burning some calories moving back and forth like that. Good morning. So we were fortunate enough to be granted the 2024 Port Security Grant for the dive team. It's for the fire department, specifically for the dive team. What this will do is this will upgrade all of our electronics on the boat. Everything that is on the boat is at least 12, possibly 13 years old, and depending on how long it's sat. So we're looking at 13-year-old sonar, 13-year-old side scan sonar, 13-year-old radar, and the motors are 13 years old as well. When the boat was built, just a little backstory, the boat was built, we had originally spec'd it to be a 32-foot boat. The motors were spec'd to be a 32-foot boat. At the exact same time, Chicago Fire Department was building the exact same boat, but theirs was going to be 34-foot. Well, the boat manufacturer wanted us to have a bigger boat than Chicago Fire Department, so they built us a 36-foot boat. In the process of doing that, they undersized our motors. So we have been, for the entirety of that boat, we have had motors that were undersized. So we applied for the port security grant. The boat was purchased off of a port security grant in 2012. We were very fortunate to get the grant then because we were in a situation where we had previously borrowed a boat from the National Lakeshore, and the National Lakeshore, the relationship with the city of Portage and the National Lakeshore at that time had disintegrated. And so the National Lakeshore took their boat away from us. So it left us in a situation where we did not have a boat. We had a dive team, but we didn't have a boat. So we were fortunate enough to get the boat. We were fortunate enough this time as well to get the port security grant because it's already a federal asset. So they shine kindly on us being able to get money to upgrade the federal asset that they've already got. The total cost of the project, as you can see, is $275,047. The grant portion of that, it is a 75-25 match, so the grant portion of it is $206,285, and the city portion is $68,762. We did work with Dan Bowditch and created a capital stack on how the fire department will fund the $68,762. If you look at the capital stack from the Development Economic and Finance Consulting LLC, you can see there specifically where all of our monies come from. What we are here for today, so the money has federally been released. We have been granted, there was a little bit of two situations, really. One, there was an economic review that had to be gone through for the sonar aspect of things. They just wanted to make sure that there was no ecological review, not economic. There was no ecological issues that were going to take place with our sonar. That was approved. And then the other portion, there was an issue with the federal government's computer software for the grant. So we had been approved the money, but the money had not been released. At this time, the money has been released. What we are asking for today is to be able to use the federal money for $4,100 to get the boat to the East Coast to get the work initiated, and the work will not take place until they receive 50% of the funding, which is the Lake Assault Boats invoice at the top for $129,301.50. Again, this money is accounted for. It is federal grant money, so if we have the approval today, we can initiate that, and the work will not start until they have that money. And then the city's portion of it would not come until the back end of the project. So we would exhaust all federal funds on the front side of the project, and then the city would, or the fire department would, use our $68,762 on the back side of the project.
Let me say, Chief, I appreciate how much time you guys spent making this work, because over the course of this fall in particular, there's just been a lot of, it's necessary expenses, but there's a lot of how to figure out how to pay for things. So I appreciate the time you guys spent with myself, Leanne, and with Dan Bowditch to get a lot of this figured out and create a strategy. We're going to see that with other expenses too as they come, but I know a lot of effort went into figuring out where the money was going to come from, including this capital stack.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you apply for a federal grant, there's a little bit of nervousness that goes along with it because they all have a matching portion of it. Us being able to work with Dan Bowditch to be able to figure that out was very important, and fortunately he's a very smart individual, so he was able to, help us with all of that. So I appreciate your willingness to sit down with us and listen to everything that we had to go through to make it happen as well.
So the only thing you need now is the $4,100 approved to transport it. Is it 50%, the $120 million?
Yes, sir. And we will come back so we have the the 50% due and the travel out there now. Once the motors are mounted, there will be another portion due, and we will come to the Board of Works and request that. And then once the money is due at the end, we will come back and request that amount.
It looks like we get back in April.
Roughly, yes. As long as we can get them that 50%, it'll be approximately 120 days from the time that they initiate work. Just in time to go to work for the boating season.
Sounds like it. Well, I'll make a motion that we approve the request for the initial $4,100 for transport and the 50% upfront of $129,301.50 to install boats.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you very much.
So next we have a curb sidewalk waiver agreement for River Trace subdivision Outlot F. Hello.
Good morning. My name is Cameron Wignall. I'm a project manager with Olthoff Homes here regarding River Trace subdivision and approximately 120 feet of frontage along Loot Road. The city municipal code states that all frontage improvement requires curb and sidewalk improvements. We did provide these improvements further east at our north entrance. However, this 120 feet of frontage is essentially landlocked by single-family parcels to the east and west. And during the primary plat review, it was deemed by Great Lakes Engineering that improvements to the 120 feet would not be practical, and the improvements ultimately were not shown on our approved subdivision plans. It was later determined that a curb and sidewalk waiver would still be required, so I am here today seeking those waivers. I will just add as a side note, this 120 feet of property, we were in discussion with the neighbor to the west about potentially selling that property. In full disclosure, I do not know where that stands today. Our acquisition manager is handling that, but I do know that was still on the table. So again, here just requesting the waivers for the curb and sidewalk.
Tom, is there a recommendation, or Sandy, from your department on this?
I just provide you with some information. Loop Road's Pacer rating is a 1. That's pretty bad. It needs to be resurfaced. I believe when the city goes to perform that work, that we will probably put sidewalks and curbs where they currently don't exist. So whatever you decide, whether you want them to install them or pay so that we can install them later when everything else goes in, that's your call.
I know that we, for some reason, are blessed to deal with this issue a lot, but I do think that this is kind of a different situation because we have a road that is going to have work done on it, you know? And I think that it's one thing to pay out of it. It's another thing to actually say that we would hope that we get a head start on getting that work done, you know?
That's usually how I look at it, is if it's a road that we look at and we say over the next 50 years, likely we're never gonna put sidewalk or curbs in, then there's no reason to hold the money. But if it's one that is likely we're going to, then I would say we should either we can grant the waiver and receive the deposit to hold so we can pay for it, or ask that contractor to do it now, so. So I would make a motion to grant the waiver as written, in receiving $3,025 in consideration for that waiver. The city will hold.
Do you want to go ahead and make this, we need a separate one for the curb waiver? Can we just put those together?
I think, Ed, that's a legal question. Yeah, do we have to do the sidewalk and then we got to do the curb, or can they be done in one motion?
For the sake of simplicity, you may want to break them apart.
I'll second that motion.
So we have a motion and a second for the sidewalk. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And I'll make a motion to grant the curb waiver.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We have bulk item appeals for 2294 Poinsettia.
We did get an appeal, a receipt from the previous homeowner. That item, piece of furniture was picked up on September 16th, and home closing papers indicate the home sold on October 7th. So he's claiming because he didn't live in Portage at the time that he's not responsible for the $40 bulk item charge. And I don't think the homeowner's here to bring his side of the story, so I'm asking the board to uphold the charge of $40.
I'll make a motion, we uphold the $40 charge.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Did you guys have a chance to look at the claims? And were there any questions?
I do have a question on the EMS billing service. Is that an annual fee we pay for that software, or is that monthly?
So, I thought that that was supposed to be wrapped up in the cost annually.
I'll make the motion that we pay our bills in the amount of $694,746.02.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any other business deemed proper to be brought before the board? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
That was the first one I heard. I don't know. I didn't even hear anybody to my other side. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you.